Hello, my name's Tony Cardenas with Carmel Social Media Podcast, and we have some real estate market updates today. I'm sitting here with Kyle Morris with FC Tucker here in Carmel, Indiana, and Shelly Walters with eXp Realty. Hi, guys. How's everybody doing?
Doing great. It's beautiful out.
Yes, finally, as spring looks like it's around the corner.
Even though it snowed Friday.
That's right, Shelly. And guess what? You're kind of cheating on us because you were in Florida last week.
Well, it was warmer here than Florida when I was there.
Really?
Yeah.
What part of Florida did you go to?
I was in Daytona with family. So, yeah, this was rainy and cold. Flew back home Sunday for the warmth.
Well, we're not going to be talking about the real estate down in Daytona, Florida, but we are going to touch on some key points here in Hamilton County. Let's jump into this real quick. Shelly, give me the Carmel stats and the Shelly, you give me Carmel, Zionsville, and Westfield today, would you please?
Yes. So in Carmel, we had 35 new listings in the past 7 days, and 25 of those have already sold. In Zionsville, we had 13 new listings, but 8 of those have already sold. And then in Westfield, 18 were listed and 9 sold. So they're selling pretty quickly. It's still the same.
Okay, Kyle, let's jump over to your side of the fence. You're jumping on Fishers and Noblesville. Tell me what's going on there.
So in Fishers, we had 41 that actually went on the market, but 19 have already sold, right? So, I mean, we have a lot going on the market, but it's just crazy how quickly everything is selling right now. And then in Noblesville, we had 28 listed and 26 of those have already sold.
Crazy. So, okay, tell me what you guys are seeing last week in selling properties. I mean, Kyle, tell me what's going on in the Noblesville area, and then I'm going to have Shelly shed some light on this too.
It's just really, really busy. There's a ton of competition out there. There's a lot of excitement. For example, we listed a house and we had a ton of interest on the house just in the first day, right? And what's happening is sometimes sellers are getting overwhelmed with how many people are coming in and out of their house. I mean, Shelly and I were just talking. We know of some houses that went on the market here on the north side where 120 people in the house in a day. Like, wow. Can you remember a couple of years ago where if you had 10 over the weekend, that was really good traffic. And to see these numbers there's I think there's a lot of fear or unsurety of like what's going on in the market. People are out in it in droves, actually.
Well, and the other thing about it too is that the market is speeding up right now with more and more buyers coming in and still no listings coming up. So we had a house in Noblesville that we put on the market last week. We had 100 showings in 2 days, and we just had to stop the showings because you really do get to the point, and I know it makes buyers a little upset about not being able to get into a house, or it could make buyers agents get upset. But if they're not in that first 1 or 2 days, I think
they're gone, right?
Well, not even gone. I think the sellers just get like, we need to stop the showings. We can't have that's like having, it's 100 showings, which means maybe 2 or 3 per. You're talking 300 or 400 people coming through your house in 2 days.
That's just lot. Showings. That's not how many people come with the group. I know last year what we were doing is we'd put people up in a hotel for the weekend because it was going to be that bad.
Wow.
We're already at that, and we're mid-March, right?
Well, and I talked to somebody today that wants to list their house, and I was talking to, the big question they always have is, well, how do I go through this process? And a lot of questions. And one of the conversations I ended up with her was saying, well, when we do, your price point where you live is going to make you have showing after showing. The days are gone where you go and come into your house back and forth when there's, we do need you to leave the house at this point. You need to think about really going and staying somewhere, getting a hotel or whatever, get the pets out of the house, be gone Friday through Sunday so we can show your house.
That's one of the things. It's like, do we partner up with a doggy daycare or something at this point? Because what do you do with pets? That's a lot to deal with.
Sure it is. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. But look, you guys are getting a lot of people coming out to these open houses, or when you're showing up to show a house, there's people in front and behind you. And here the interest rates have went up. And right now it seems like it's really not having that much effect on everything because, your average 30-year fixed today, your average now is right around 4.25% to 4.375%, all the way over to your, that's a 30-year. And right around the 15-year mark, interest rates are right around 3.875%. And it doesn't seem to slow the people down that want to buy a home today, because really those rates aren't bad.
They're not. They're historically low outside of the past year, two and a half, right?
Right. Still, it's still pretty good. But the question I have for you, um, buyer calls you, says, I need a 4-bedroom home. I want to live in Hamilton County. I want to be in a good school district. What do you do if you have nothing in Hamilton County? Do you move them over to another city? What do you do? I mean, a guy that has to come in here or a lady has to come in here and buy a home for his family or her family. What do you do?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the conversation with the buyer when you have the buyer's consultation. You got to set the expectations on timeline, what it's going to be like, what parameters we're going to have to do to anticipate this market. There's a lot of things you can do to adjust to the market, quite honestly, but it really comes down to setting the tone with the buyer, don't you think?
Well, and setting the tone with them when you first talk to them to just understand, here's the market we're in. This is what you're going to have to do. Are you okay with that? Okay, now that you're okay with understanding that, you've told us you would like to live here or here. Can you tell us why? And many times when they've told you why is if they're especially coming from out of state, it's because my friend said it's a great town.
And schools.
Yeah. So we really need to get down to what are you really looking for? What's the most important in the house? Is it the schools? Is it, parks? Is it being close to things? All of that. Because then we know the area so well, we can steer them towards some other areas that might be less expensive or easier without, the multiple offers going on because it's a little bit on the outskirts. But there, we have so many wonderful pockets in Indianapolis and Hamilton County and, Hendricks. I mean, everywhere is it's a great place to be. So what we do is really, if they say they come in and pick one town, we do need to help them understand, can we expand that a little bit so you're not going to be so frustrated during this process?
Right. When you were
Educate
talking
them on the city.
exactly. Well, you were talking about little pockets, okay? And I want to talk about this pocket. I want to shift over to Indianapolis, okay? And let's give everybody a little insight what's going on in Broad Ripple right now.
Well, I think Broad Ripple is really interesting. About 3 years ago, I had probably 4 or 5 buyers that were first-time home buyers looking in Broad Ripple, wanting to be in Broad Ripple. And I could tell you those houses exactly 130 to 140 would be the price range. And I'd see one for 160 and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so high. That's overpriced. They've rehabbed it. They're wanting too much for it. It was the
Yeah.
same. It was the same. It was the same.
What's the stats on Broad Ripple today,
Well,
Shelly?
today their average list price right now was 219 to 295 in the past 7 days. 3 were listed. 2 have already sold. Broad Ripple is hot.
Yeah. Well, next week, as Kyle and I were talking, we're going to concentrate on Meridian Hills. We're going to bring this into the mix every week. And then we're going to start talking downtown Indianapolis, Mass Avenue section, some of these other areas to give some people some choices because of our listeners. They're starting to wonder where they can buy, what's going on, what's the action and the update. So my biggest question is for you guys. Okay, you guys are the ones that are out on the front line. When somebody says, "I want to list my house and I want to get the craziest price," how do you keep these people in check? Where if somebody says, "I want too high for a home, $50,000 over for my home," how do you keep these people in check to say, it's not going to sell at that price? Because you just can't sell anything, can you?
Well, and I can't predict that either. So to a certain extent, the numbers are the numbers. Like I am really hard when I come to comping a house, but at
Sure.
the end of the day, it's an opinion on price, same as an appraisal is, right? And fair market value is going to determine what the house actually sells for. But you're going to have people who notoriously everybody either undervalues their house or overvalues their house. Nobody hits it right on. So it's a conversation no matter what. I generally tell people I'm also not the god of pricing. Like I will work with them on that number. And let's say if we do price high,
Sure.
which is their right to do, we just have a game plan of how we handle that if the market dictates that's too high, right?
Right.
Because you'll know, especially in this market, you'll know quickly if you miss the mark.
Okay. Hey, Shelly, we're going to talk also briefly next week on new home construction. And right now, a little teaser on this. I know, for example, some builders here in Carmel on just a regular 2,500 to a 3,200 square foot home are saying anywhere from, it's not 8 months anymore, it's 12 to 14 months. Okay. And the other issue is location, location, location. And there's not a lot of places to build. It's getting crazy. It's just getting out of hand a little
Well,
bit.
and we get calls all the time on how to navigate the building process. And again, we can't emphasis enough that you need representation. You need a buyer's agent to help you go through this process. For this very reason, it's changing daily. How you can get a house, the process, what you need to do, what you should do. So it's Yeah, it's changing daily, and us who are in the business daily, not part-time, not doing it, for the fun of it, we are having to continually make sure we know what's going on and keep up with this.
Okay.
I think one of the interesting things to be as we dip into Indianapolis more to navigate some of
We
those
are.
neighborhoods, it's going to see like for the past 2 years, because of COVID, we saw a mass exodus outside of the city. When you're talking about, do you want schools? Do you want this? Do you want a loft? Do you want a basement? One of the things that was no longer on the plate for consideration was commute. But now, as we're slowly getting out of that, people are heading back into the city. So it's going to
Right.
be interesting to track those numbers and to kind of see the trends there, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, we're going to jump in also besides Broad Ripple, Mass Avenue, Meridian Hills. There's a large interest out in the Avon area. I'm telling you, they're getting the roundabouts. It's
we
really
have 2 listings going up in Avon in the
yes,
next couple
Avon
of weeks.
and Brownsburg. It's a hot area, and we're going to have stats on that next week. But here's the biggest question: if somebody wants to call you, Kyle, how do they get a hold of you?
Call or text 317-649-5122. Basically 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
And Shelly, how would they get a hold of you? And you go ahead and take us out.
All right, you guys can reach me anytime on my cell phone. Call or text 317-201-2601. So have a great day and a great week.
This podcast is sponsored by PRMG Mortgage, serving Indianapolis markets. Need a mortgage pre-approval before you buy your home? Get the details up front. Contact Greg Evans at PRMG Mortgage in Carmel, Indiana. Get a low fixed mortgage rate. Plus, we have mortgage options that other lenders don't have. Reach out to Greg Evans at PRMG Mortgage Loan Specialist, NMLS 138492. Call direct 317-590-6546.